So, our next speaker just founded recently a platform. He called that like the Match.com for inspiration, and it's called the Thought Expansion Network. So I invite you to sign in. It's really new, and so I would like to invite him on stage. Our next speaker, Jonathan McDonald.
There's a famous Chinese proverb that says that when the winds of change are blowing, some build a wall and others build a windmill. And I've spent the last couple of days walking around the show and meeting lots of famous brands and famous, soon-to-be famous startups. And it's interesting because there's not a great deal of windmill building. There's a lot of wall building. There's a lot of defense. The fuel that a lot of companies use is actually whatever the competitors are doing, right? Or whatever the spreadsheet says, or whatever the shareholders want, whatever your boss tells you to do, whatever your friends think you should do, whatever your parents expected of you, whatever you did last year. And very, very few companies are actually innovative. And interestingly, a lot of those companies not only think they are innovative, they also think they're unique. How many companies have you met in the last couple of days who say they're the only company that does ... right? So I was at the speaker reception on Monday night, and everyone I spoke to said that they were the only person doing what they were doing. Everyone. Is that amazing? It's like how I was evidently in a room full of 200 absolutely unique people. Interestingly, all of which were either building an app, launching a location-based service, or involved in big data. All in unique ways. No one is actually building a windmill. They're not using the change. They're using what they think will be the next Mark Zuckerberg IPO. I wonder how that's going to go. I mean, how's it going to pan? What were we thinking? To be honest, I'm one of the only speakers here who hasn't actually got an agenda. There's no company of mine that I can sell you. I can't tell you how we're going to resist building a social media strategy because it's too complicated or whatever other reason. I can't do any of that. But I find it interesting because there is inspiration everywhere. If we actually look and think in a different way, we could be unique. We could come up with hugely unique ideas. But it depends on how we look at things. So for instance, if we take the assassination market in the deep web, right? You all know about the assassination market. I mean, it's common knowledge, surely. I mean, it's practically a TV advert. So the assassination market, the deep web, the dark net, as you know, is 500 times larger than the World Wide Web. Totally anonymous. You can hire hitmen, buy drugs, whatever you like. But the assassination market I find specifically interesting because in the assassination market, basically what you do is you put money into what's called a dead pool. You put money into a prediction as to when a famous politician is going to get assassinated. And then the winner is the person who gets the date right. Now, you might be looking at this as the assassination market. I look at this as motivation. This is something which enables anyone to essentially crowdfund the assassination of politicians. Now, no one's really talking about this in the web in any of the three halls. Because if you look at this, you think, wow, this is a bit edgy. We're talking about killing politicians. This is, whoa, hold on. This is going to go out on YouTube? What's his mum going to think? But I don't look at this in terms of assassination. I don't look at this in terms of the deep web. All I see is huge, huge, huge opportunity. Not because of what it looks like, but actually because what the core is. The core of this model, if you really think about it, is this. It's linking desire to outcome through motivation. So if we actually look at things and take away the sheen, take away the gloss, take away the sexiness, all this is linking desire to outcome through motivation. And then you could think to yourself, all right, so what could be solved using motivation to deliver an outcome that many would desire? I don't know, disease research. Could you imagine in a world where funding is actually being removed from R&D in terms of genetic, hereditary diseases, etc.? The reality is that you could use the assassination market to enable people whose families are affected by this to put in bids as to when a cure for a particular disease would be found, and then scientists could actually create their R&D, and then when they come up with a cure, they win the pool. So what I've just come up with right now is probably the most innovative idea in healthcare in the last 2,000 years. It's not hard. Inspiration's everywhere. Everything we look at is inspiration. When Garry Kasparov lost his chess game in 1997 to Deep Blue, the IBM supercomputer. When he lost against the machine, what he actually did was start investing into human and technology combinations. And he invented advanced chess. And advanced chess became freestyle chess, which basically means that you can have people and computers competing against people and computers. It's much bigger than real chess now. The best chess player in the world is actually a company called Intergrand, which is 8 British scientists and 9 software programs. And they've actually tried using people and technology against people, and people and technology win. Technology against people, technology wins. But people and technology beats everything. So you're looking at this going, what the hell is he talking? This is LeWeb. You're talking about chess? But if you look at the core, what we're actually talking about is that combined human plus technology performance beats human-only and technology-only performance. And then you still think, well, what's in it? When are you going to get to the social media, Twitter, Facebook app thing? This is where inspiration can come from, because actually if you apply this to airline pilots, to surgeons, to teaching, to judges, you end up in a situation where we can actually use human and technology combinations to stop crashes, to increase the likelihood of a heart operation going right, to increase the effectiveness of teachers, to increase the likelihood that justice is served. Big things. And the inspiration's right there. But we see it as a story about an assassination market and a story about a chess game. But if we think of things, if we actually use the winds of change to build windmills, we can solve way more than we're solving in this room. What we're really trying to do in this room is become multi-billionaires in an IPO. Let's be honest. If we really want to solve stuff, we could. All of the inspiration's there. I wonder whether or not we actually want to do things like that. Do we actually want to solve stuff? So if we look at Amazon Echo, people go, oh, it's like a Siri thing, but it's a smart device. And we look at the Internet of Things and the IoT agencies that are now popping up everywhere. Do we actually wonder what the core is? What's the core behind this? It's not about a device that can play music and answer questions. It's not a device that eradicates the need for search engines. And people look at this and maybe think, hold on a minute, this is going to compete against Google. If Google were actually a search engine, which they're not, because of course we all know that they're building an AI. Every time you search for Father Christmas or Schwarzer Pete and you click on something and you see an image, you're teaching the AI. That's what you're doing. That's what this is. That's what this is. The core of it all is building artificial intelligence, which, by the way, at the core, really, I reckon real artificial intelligence, would be around in our lifetime for 2 days. Day 1, the AI computes 300 million times a second to a conclusion that humans are the weakest link. Day 2, we're dead. That's the future of AI, okay? But yet we build it, right? Oh, yeah, let's build the AI. The end of the human era. Great. That's what we want for our kids, right? Really? I do wonder whether we're building the future that we actually want to live in. Bearing in mind, we tend to be building a future that we won't. That's the core. If we look at the core of experience, this is in Japan, Love Plus, which is a game, which is an app, which is a hotel, which is a game, which is an app, which is a hotel. It's one of the most popular hotel resorts, right? And here you can go with your virtual girlfriend. This is a guy who's taking a picture of his friend with his virtual girlfriend in the picture. And in the rooms, in LeWeb'14, they've got digital screens on the ceiling where you can watch your digital girlfriend performing various tasks. You've got a sick mind, young lady. That's not what I meant. But what's the core of this? The core of this could be found in the fact there's 80 times as many virtual farmers as there are real farmers. There is more products digitally than there are physically. There's entire economies that are 300 times bigger than the real economy. But yet, how many people in this room are building services for virtual people? How many furniture manufacturers are building virtual furniture for virtual people? How many people in this room, how many people in the Pullman stage are talking about serving a virtual economy that is eclipsing the physical economy? So now, if you go to Japan, it turns out that about 30% of men would prefer to have a virtual girlfriend rather than a physical girlfriend. I have heard that if you ask women how many of them would like to have a virtual boyfriend, it's something like 93%. But I can't confirm that. And when we look at nanorobotics, we look at smart medicine, digital smart pills. Nothing that I say, by the way, is futuristic. I'm a nowist. I'm not a futurist. But if we look at digital smart pills from, let's say, proteusdigitalhealth.com, that enable our bloodstream to tell us what we want, that enable our bloodstream to tell us whether we should eat something or not. This, if you look at it and think about the nanorobots inside our eye fluid that can actually fix our retina problems and change our prescription, in one sentence, I have now wiped out all GP practitioners, doctors, marketing, advertising, opticians. How do we market in a world where people themselves will tell themselves what they want? And when we look at the core behind this, what this is that information has been so fundamentally disrupted, it's here, it's just not widely distributed. How are we building for that here in this conference? If the winds of change are blowing, we're building walls, whereas what we really need to do is build windmills. So it does require a great deal of clarity as to what business we're actually in and what we're actually trying to achieve, because at the end of the day, everything is inspiration, right? Everything could be inspiring, from chess, from assassination markets, to digital smart medicine, to smart furniture, to connected devices. Everything is inspiration. I don't actually think there's such a thing necessarily as these buzzwords, because we don't necessarily look at the core, and the main thing is to keep the main thing the main thing. So how do we find that clarity? How do we find the clarity to understand what we should be looking at and how we can build innovation? Well, I've got 3 steps that we could take, 3 practical steps that anyone in this room could use. So for the rest of the day, you could use these steps if you wish. The first step is this. I believe that we have an inherent mandatory need now to elevate the business that we think we're in to the business and the life we're actually in. And what do I mean by that? Well, what I mean by that is this. Wonderbra, the lingerie company, don't actually make lingerie. They're actually in the business of self-confidence. So that's their market opportunity. Anything to do with self-confidence. Harley-Davidson aren't in the business of selling motorcycles. They're in the business of selling freedom for middle-aged men. So that's why Harley-Davidson have a multi-million-pound clothing company. They have skateboards, they have whiskey, they have hotels in Vegas, they have cafes all over the world. Because all they need to work out is how else could we enable people to feel that? That's the only question they have to ask. The companies in here that think they're in the business of USB charging devices or cloud storage or data CRM, these companies aren't actually in the business of that, they're in the business of this. The question is, however, is that because they think they're in this business, they're building a software as a service, they're building a product that's on your mobile phone, that's the limit. They're limiting their market opportunity. If they elevate upwards, they have an unending market opportunity. But it requires the expansion and the elevation. That's the first thing. What business are you actually in? Secondly, how much are we actually planning for our demise? How much do we actually think about what is going to end us? It's an uncomfortable thing, right? I mean, for me as a professional speaker, the business I'm actually in, A, is as a catalyst. I expand people's thinking. So the speaking thing is a tactic. It's not a strategy. B, the thing that would really, really disrupt me is if I lost my voice, which is why I invest heavily into holographic technology. This version is real, but maybe next year it won't be, if I ever were likely to get invited back. But the planning that we need to do is in what would actually end us. Which is why, for instance, when this guy, Hon Lik, who owns all of the patents in electronic cigarettes, he did this in 2003. What did Imperial Tobacco, Philip Morris, the people who own Marlboro, Benson Hedges, all these cigarette companies, what did they do in 2003? Why didn't they come up with the electronic cigarette? Why do they pay $70 to $150 million each per year to him? What's your electronic cigarette? That's exactly the reaction that the tobacco companies had. And then the third one is this. How urgent are we? Bearing in mind that our planning tends to be this white, very standard diagonal line. The reality of exponential growth in a world where by 2025 the average size of a computer chip will be the same size as a blood cell, and it will be 1 billion times more capable with a B. That's the orange curve. And the delta between the two is the disruption that you only feel after it's happened. It's amazing that the hotel chains now are looking at Airbnb and going, wow, they're the third largest hotel chain in terms of value. We should do something about it. You're 8 years too late. So when the camera companies look at the mobile phones with cameras on, and right now are thinking, you know what, wow, we should start thinking about what to do about the fact that there's hundreds of millions of cameras and our market is eroding. We should do something about that. Or the newspaper advertising industry that went up and up and up and up and up for 140 years, and in the last 51 months has gone down by 92%. If you mathematically work it out in an algorithm, the only thing we can do is move now, and move fast. Once we've elevated the business we're actually in, and we've planned what would be our demise, I would say, prudently and pragmatically, as a free-of-charge piece of consultation, that we should actually move right now. And also, the disruption is already here, it's just that we don't feel it. Whilst we're standing around nursing hangovers after a lovely party, feeling smug in our nice, cozy stand, the disruption's already happened. Almost everyone around us in their companies are the walking, living dead. This is a motivational speech. I'm doing it with a smile. Come on, it's cheery, it's a Wednesday. If we know all this, what are we doing about it, and how fast are we doing it? I think we have a choice. We either build walls, or we build windmills. I don't think we should feel comfortable. I don't think we should feel rich enough, fast enough, innovative enough. I think we should consider being conservatively paranoid. But what we tend to do is we tend to do what our competitors think, what our shareholders expect, what our parents wanted for us, what our friends think we should do, what we did last year. Elevation, what business are you really in? Planning, what would be your demise? And urgency, what the hell are we going to do about it? Thanks.